Hi everyone, Spider-Man 1991 here, and I'm going to review The Dark Knight Rises. This review does contain spoilers. If you have not seen The Dark Knight Rises, please do not watch this video. Go see the movie, then come back and watch it after you've seen the movie. Alright. Overall, it was awesome. It was a really good movie. A great ending to a great trilogy of Batman films. I mean, it was just beautifully done. First of all, let me talk about some of the characters. Christian Bale as Batman Bruce Wayne. I think since the start of the trilogy, I think this is the best movie where he portrays Batman by far. Okay, this is where Christian Bale as Batman really shines in this movie, because I don't think there were a lot of troubles with the Batman voice, because I remember when The Dark Knight came out, that became like an internet meme. Christian Bale's Batman sounding like a guy with throat cancer. But I heard him when he was doing the Batman voice. I felt it was more clearer now and better. And during the theater when I was watching the movie, I'm like, Bale's voice has really gotten better. But then when he was hitting Bane and he asked where's the trigger, and it just became all rough again, rough and hard to understand. I'm like, oh god, okay, now the jokes are coming in. But overall, Bale did an amazing performance as the main hero, the main character of this movie. He was brilliant. And speaking of brilliance, Anne Hathaway as Selina Kyle. Now, first of all, let me just say that she's not called Catwoman at all during this movie, okay? The only reference to Catwoman are like her little mask that, that the ears sort of become goggles to it, which, is kind of a practical way of displaying the cat costume. But also, there wasn't really any kind of particular Catwoman illusion, just that she's Selina Kyle, Master Thief. But Anne Hathaway really did portray the character. She was beautiful in it. The way she perfectly portrayed this Master Thief who was highly experienced, could get out of any situation. It was just amazing. I know when people first heard that everyone said Anne Hathaway was playing Catwoman. People were skeptical, but you should stop being skeptical when you see this movie, because she is just very, very brilliant as Selina Kyle. Wow. Okay. Second of all, Tom Hardy as Bane. Well, first of all, for Bane, I'm glad they did not portray him at all the way they did what they did with Bane and Batman and Robin, because when they first used Bane in the movie, he was just a mindless henchman to Poison Ivy. In this movie, though, this is how it works, how they got to work for Bane. And I should have said this during my video when I was talking about my thoughts on Dark Knight Rises before the movie, was that Bane would be connected to the League of Shadows, the organization led by Ra's al Ghul. Well, that was true too, because in the Nolan trilogy universe, Bane was a member of the League of Shadows, but he was excommunicated, and he eventually came back and took over the League after Ra's al Ghul's death. So now Bane pretty much wants to take over Gotham and defeat the man who killed Ra's al Ghul. So he fights Batman, and in the first fight with Bane versus Batman, that was brilliant, and Bane was going to town on Batman. Most of it, I knew Batman was going to lose that fight, and that would be how he got wound up in that prison. And Batman didn't. He had kind of a chance, but Bane ultimately got the upper hand, and he even did the shot where he lifted Batman up and broke his spine, just like in the comic book. When they did that, I was jumping for joy. I mean, it is kind of sad when you see the hero lose, but I was happy when they did that shot with Bane snapping his back on his knee, Batman's back on his knee. Just, oh man, it was. I mean, if you've read the comics or have at least seen that image of Bane breaking Batman's spine, when you see it in the theater, you will be really, really happy that they kept that in there. My God. and they didn't just make Bane like a mindless. I mean, although ultimately though this is something that, again, this is a big spoiler, but even though it does seem like Bane is this brilliant strategist and ultimate fighter that he is in the comics, ultimately though it's revealed that he was helping Talia al Ghul, who's played in this movie by Marion. Her name is Marion Cotillard. Am I saying that right? Anyways, yeah. She was also in another Christopher. Sorry about that. My camera battery died. I had to go replace it. Anyways, back to what I was saying. It was revealed that Marion Cotillard, her character originally announced as Miranda Tate, who kind of helps run Wayne Enterprises for Bruce Wayne. She's ultimately revealed to be Ra's al Ghul's daughter, Talia. And they did even announce, she even stated publicly that the character would not be Talia, but she was Talia. That was clever. Very clever, Nolan, that they hid that. Because even though, I mean, I'm pretty sure once everyone found that out, they're like, I was right. But they kept it hidden, and that was good. I mean, it just made the shock more worth it, so to speak. So, but still, they had Bane. Still, I don't even think they needed Talia because the way Tom Hardy was portraying Bane, he could have acted on his own. Okay. And Talia, though, even though she kind of wasn't introduced like towards the end of the movie, I think she was brilliant. It was brilliant having her in the movie, kind of to tie it back to the the first movie, Batman Begins, with Ra's al Ghul. I thought that was brilliant. Was a brilliant decision to bring her in, and it was very smart. Now, moving on, the other character I want to address is John, is the police cop who became a detective, who was promoted to detective during the movie. John Blake, who's played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who was also in Inception. Oh, and also Tom Hardy was in Inception too. So, but back to the subject. John Blake is basically this sort of Gotham cop who just works his beat, and he eventually, though, he does catch the attention of Jim Gordon, who Jim promotes him to detective, and eventually, though, Blake does kind of also help get Bruce Wayne back into being Batman, because he figures out that Bruce Wayne was He eventually figures out that Bruce Wayne was Batman. And when people heard about the John Blake character, they all thought, oh, geez, he must be Robin. Well, they were technically right, because, again, another spoiler, at the end of the film, it's revealed that his name is actually, his full legal name is Robin John Blake. And throughout the film, he does exhibit several elements of previous Robins. He's a detective like Dick Grayson, and also he was a policeman like Dick Grayson in Bloodhaven temporarily. And he had a few anger issues like Jason Todd, and he figured out on his own that Bruce Wayne was Batman, just like Tim Drake. So, they kind of added Robin without having to. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt was Robin, but technically without actually being Robin. If you can understand what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's able to represent Robin, but without having to put on the costume. And it was great, because he sort of functioned as kind of like a sort of apprentice to Batman during the film. And then eventually, though, by the film's end, when Batman fakes his death to stop a nuclear bomb, to get a nuclear bomb away from Gotham, Bruce Wayne leaves Blake the coordinates to the Batcave and all his equipment, so that way Blake can continue on the Batman legacy. And that's something else that happened in the comics, was ultimately the first Robin, Dick Grayson, becoming the new Batman. Although, granted, it was temporary for both times, but there have been incidents where Batman has had to pass his mantle on to some people for the time being. And next character I want to talk about is Commissioner Gordon. Just like Batman, Commissioner Gordon was also affected by the decision to cover up what really happened to Harvey Dent. For Batman, though, he took the blame for the deaths of the people Harvey killed, and as Bruce Wayne, after that Bruce Wayne went into hiding and pretty much just went to depression and just exiled himself to Wayne Manor. In Commissioner Gordon's case, he still continued to do his job, but for years the Guild weighed on him, because this movie is set 8 years after the Dark Knight, and basically the Guild is like really eating up at Gordon, and apparently at this sort of party where they were celebrating like 8 years after the after the Harvey Dent Act passed, which helped them lock up a lot of organized crime. Gordon was getting ready to announce the truth that Harvey Dent was the true killer and Batman was innocent, and he was going to resign his post, but he didn't. Because Gordon was just too nervous about doing it. But when Gordon gets captured by Bane, and Bane finds the speech in Gordon's jacket, and after he throws Gordon, gets Gordon back into the city, and Bane still keeps the sheets, and then eventually when Bane starts taking control of Gotham, he reveals to the public the truth about what happened to Harvey. And that's also when Bane tears down Blackgate and frees all the prisoners in there. And Gordon does find out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, because when Batman's getting ready to use the new Batwing, or it's called the Bat in this film, when Batman's getting ready to take the bomb out of the city because they can't disarm it, Gordon asks him, who are you under the mask? And then and the way they did it was very similar to, again, a callback to Batman Begins, when Batman sort of tells Rachel Dawes that he's Bruce Wayne. Batman tells him that that it doesn't matter who I am, because they have to know, because Gotham needs to know that I can be anyone, even someone who offers his coat to a crying child. In that moment, Gordon flashes back to when Bruce was 8, and it was right after his parents died, and he sort of comforted the young Bruce Wayne. That's when Gordon gets, oh my God, you're Bruce Wayne. That was even a great scene right there too. This movie had so many memorable scenes, and it was just wonderful. But it did take a lot from the comic books themselves. For example, Bane closing off Gotham and keeping it in this sort of anarchy state is similar to what happened to the story arc No Man's Land, except it was an earthquake, a natural disaster that damaged the city of Gotham, and then eventually the government thought the city was too damaged beyond repair, so they just kept it. So they declared it off limits in No Man's Land, and then that's when the villains started taking over, and Batman had to go reclaim order himself. And also The Dark Knight Returns. That's a story that was originally set was written around the mid 80s, and was a story set 20 years in the future with the retired Batman in his old age, who eventually gets out of retirement to help to deal with this gang in Gotham called the Mutants. And that happens, and it's just like in this book too. Batman realizes that it is pretty much 8 years in retirement, and he decides, you know what, I need to get back in the game to deal with this problem with Bane, because the police can't. So he becomes Batman again. And also, the ending of The Dark Knight Returns was that Batman would fight Superman, and Batman faked his death and went back into hiding. That's also what happened at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. He faked his death, and Bruce Wayne faked his death, and then went into hiding again, because it's revealed in a scene later that when Alfred's in, I think, Florence, Italy, he sees Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne in the cafe as well, and he realizes that they're alive, and that's also the moment where Blake finds the Batcave. And the main story, that comic book story that was really a big influence in this movie, was Nightfall. Okay, that was the story that introduced Bane. It also introduced Bane into this film trilogy. Also, like I said, they redid the scene where Bane broke Batman's spine, and also the way Batman had to recover was, it was kind of similar to that in spirit. Was that Bruce had to sort of regain his sense of confidence, his pride, to know that he could do this, to know that he could take out Bane, that he was the only one to do so. And that's what really got him out of the prison that Bane left him in, and ultimately Bruce gets out of there and goes back to Gotham and kicks Bane's ass. And also Nightfall, another thing about Nightfall is the relationship between Alfred and Bruce, because when Bruce is starting to get back, starting to take on the Batman identity again, Alfred just says, "Enough, I can't see you doing this. I care about you too much to watch you try and kill yourself, so I'm out." And that's when Alfred leaves. Not for the rest of the movie until the end, where there's sort of a private funeral for Bruce, and also that happened at Nightfall too. Was when Bruce was going around the world, sort of relearning some of his skills to be a better Batman. Alfred realizes that he can't, after seeing Bruce in that critical condition, he can't see it again, so he resigns from Bruce Wayne's services. Although eventually Alfred is urged into returning to Gotham from Nightwing, but still Alfred did resign and did kind of go away from Batman for a while, because Alfred and Batman do have kind of a father-son relationship, and Alfred does love Bruce dearly, and he can't see him hurt himself ever again, so that's why Alfred left. But Alfred did come back. And he does know that Bruce is alive, so, eventually, I just hope they are. I don't know if it's implied, but I think maybe they do make up or something. And also Nightfall, when Bruce was recovering, he had to name a successor to the Batcowl. At first, Tim Drake wanted him to name Dick Grayson, but Bruce didn't want to because he felt Dick was becoming his own man, so he went with Jean Paul Valley. That turned into a disaster. And after they took care of Jean Paul, Bruce decided he needed to work a little more before returning as Batman, so he left the cowl to Dick Grayson. That's kind of what Bruce did at the end of this movie. Was after the thing with Bane, I think he felt like, this was it for him. He's done being Batman, at least maybe for a while, and so he needs someone to pick up the slack to make sure that Gotham always has a Batman, and that's why he left the location of the cave to John Blake, so Blake could become the next Batman. Okay, I want to make a comment about that ending, where with Blake being the next Batman. I mean, I don't know, I figured if that was going to happen, the way I figured it would be like, if Blake was going to be sort of join Batman's side, it would have been like, I don't know, I think they could have gone without maybe the death of Batman, but, maybe it doesn't work like that. But anyways, I think maybe a lot of people who thought that Blake was going to be like Robin or something, the way they probably imagined it ending would be like, probably in the same way Batman begins, and Gordon on the rooftop of Gotham PD lighting the bat signal. Batman shows up, and so does John Blake, but Blake's wearing a costume, and he's, I guess, either not Robin, but either Nightwing or maybe Red Robin, and kind of acting as Batman's partner so that they could both clean up Gotham together. But, the way the ending works of Blake finding the cave, Bruce sort of in retirement with Selina Kyle, I think it works. I mean, it does work. And also, because the city witnesses Batman taking the bomb out of the city and making sure no one gets hurt, that at that moment Batman becomes a symbol for Gotham, a symbol that, of this guardian that will always protect the good people and make the bad people suffer. That's what I think Nolan was trying to address in his entire trilogy, is that Batman doesn't necessarily have to be Bruce Wayne. It can be essentially anyone, and that it did start with Bruce Wayne. It is a creation of Bruce Wayne, but it's something that Bruce created to help Gotham, and now Gotham will always have a Batman. The Nolan trilogy itself is fantastic. Is a fantastic group of films. I cannot wait for this to come out on DVD so I can have all 3 films. available to me whenever I want. I'm probably going to keep... I'm going to make sure those things last until I have kids of my own. Then I can show them, how awesome this movie is. Although my wife would probably make me wait until they're like 13 or something. I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But the Nolan Batman trilogy is amazing. I mean, it sucks. It really does suck that they have to that if we want a Justice League movie, we're probably going to have to deal with another reboot. But, it made me sort of realize something, that there are always going to be reboots, and there's always going to be someone new to, give us their own interpretation of the character. And I think as long as they have respect for the character, for the comic character, and where the character came from, and what stories have featured the character in the past, ever since its creation, then I think said character will be in good hands. I mean, Nolan did a fantastic job with Batman. Sam Raimi did an amazing job with Spider-Man. Joss Whedon did a great job on Avengers. Oh, by the way, I don't really think it's fair to compare the Avengers with The Dark Knight Rises. Like, if someone asked me, which do you think is better, The Avengers or The Dark Knight Rises, I don't think it's kind of a fair comparison, because The Dark Knight Rises is an ending. Avengers is essentially a beginning. Okay? So, it really isn't fair to compare them, and I don't really and out of those two, I don't really know which is better. I mean, I can't decide that right now, because I think I would need some time to think about it. Overall, though, The Dark Knight Rises is an amazing film. I would highly recommend it to anyone who's seen the past two Nolan films. See this movie. You owe it to yourself. It's amazing. Please check out this movie. That's really what I have to say through this review. Okay, well, that's it for The Dark Knight Rises. For my review of The Dark Knight Rises, Spider-Man 1991, saying see you later.